buttons. And hey, man, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. What's your name? I can't.
It, it's
Joe?
Joe Dimino. Yeah, Joe Dimino.
Okay. Nice
Cool.
to meet you, man.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Where are you coming out of?
Actually, I live in Kauai.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love the
So
backdrop.
yeah, that's Poipu Beach. So that's like 3 minutes from my house.
Right. I was listening yesterday. They were talking about how much land gets added to Hawaii every year, and it was pretty impressive because all the lava
Is it?
like always is expanding.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's like, well, they all the islands came from a volcano. So I mean, they just and some yeah. Kauai is, I think, the oldest, one of the
okay,
oldest islands here. It's not active at all. Like there's no risk of volcano eruption here.
gotcha. Okay, yeah, I'm landlocked here in Kansas City, so if Hawaii wants to expand all the way this way, I'm ready. I'd love to see it.
It's beautiful, man. You ever been out here?
I never have. I want to so bad.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We just barely moved out here, man. I've been here about 3 months.
It's
Three
just
months is all. So
just a paradise. It's crazy that life can be like that every day.
that's exactly what happened when we came on vacation here. It was literally that. I was like, wait a second, you mean you could live here? Like, huh? I don't have to live where I live. I don't have to do what I'm currently doing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's try that. So yeah, that's just another notch in the saga that is my life of just doing things that make sense.
Well, let's dig into that dream a little bit. Before we do, I want to know, how did you survive the last 3 years with COVID? How did you get through it? And how did it change you?
Last 3 years of the COVID, man. Well, let's put it this way. It was close to the worst hell I've ever experienced in my life.
Wow.
I owned a production company. We did live concert shows, festivals, things like that. So our small events were 2 to 3,000 people. Our typical events were 10,000 person festivals, and we were the company that would come in and build all the staging and all the production side, right? So you'd be the one, like you'd be like the promoter putting the show on, and I'm the guy you hire to bring the stage and the lighting and the sound and all the gear and the tech and all that. And so, dude, when COVID hit, it was literally, we were poised to have the best year financially we'd ever had. 2020, we just signed a new contract with a new client who was going to put on 60 plus more events than what we were already doing. I was actually in a truck driving it to Orlando from Utah to stage for the beginning of their tour. And I got the call, and I was around St. Louis area, and I got the call that they said, hey, we're going to postpone this 2 weeks. We're postponing our tour. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. Hey, well, that's cool. So I parked the truck in St. Louis, and then obviously we all know what happened. 2 weeks turned into 3 to 4 to a month to never happening. And for me, it was the biggest, it was I mean, picture this way, like a little kid playing with the garden hose, and the garden hose, the water coming out, your income, and then somebody turns the hose off immediately, kinks it, stop vein. So we went from a lifestyle that I was very accustomed to zero income coming in, looking at the runway that we had. And I had no choice in life but to just pivot out. Like I had to find, I tried everything. I was doing a million different things to try to figure out how do I provide? How do I navigate through this? Is the industry ever coming back? Is it not coming back? And then finally, I left the industry altogether, sold my company after about 2 years. Right? It was about 2022 is when we finally sold the company. So it's about 2 years after COVID hit, and but it was a lot of painstaking, man. This is really where I think who you're talking to right now, who Trevor White is now. I think that's really where he came from.
Yeah.
Is from those years of just pure looking in the mirror saying, who the hell are you, bro?
Yeah.
Like what you're not what you thought you were, and life is not what you thought it was. And you can't just ball up in a ball. Like you can't do that again. And because I did that when I was in my early 20s, when I had a tragedy and just life went another. That was like really my first pitfall. But it's like I can't do that. So it really, I would say, it just transformed me into who I am. Really to radical accountability, realizing no one is coming to save me.
Yeah.
No government, no job, no industry, nobody, not even my mom and dad or my best friends, my wife, like no one. It's just me. And I was kind of a lonely island to be standing on for a while.
Yeah.
Because I had to rely on me. I'm like, shit, do I even like who I'm looking at? I'm like, man, there was like so much of that battle going on that I had to overcome through just a lot of work, a lot of
Yeah.
work. So
But do you look back on it? Are you grateful that that journey happened and you're where you're at now?
without question, I,
Yeah.
I actually didn't realize how badly I hated the industry I was in,
Wow.
which is interesting. I liked it, I thought, and I loved it because it provided a very good income for me. But I mean, the first year of my production company, I traveled 42 weeks out of that year.
Wow.
So I mean, I was never home. Like obviously, if you're doing concerts, they're out in the world. So you're out doing the world thing. And even when I grew the company and had employees and trucks and everything, I was still always gone. And so yeah, I'm very grateful because I wouldn't. There's no way I'd be living in Hawaii right now. Like there's no way a million things about my life right now that exist. I mean, the fact that I get to spend so much time with my wife and my daughter, and that I get to do what I love. Like, and that's just in transformation and just helping other people find kind of those moments that I was forced into almost. I wasn't forced. I mean, it was my own choice, but to really look myself in the mirror and be like, dude, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Like, and when you can get a person to do that, there's no greater feeling
Yeah.
than them having that light just turn on for them, and just watch them get it
Yeah.
and start to take control of their life and no longer walking around being a victim to anything. They're in control, whether they make $1 million or don't, it doesn't matter, because that's not the measuring stick that I define success by at all. I've had lots of money and I know what it's like, and I know it doesn't give you what you think it will. And I thought it would when I didn't have it, but then I got it and I'm like, well, shit, I'm just as miserable. Well, that's not it. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of car's sitting in my driveway. That actually doesn't matter. And I know I hated people saying that. I hated hearing people say that when I was on rising up to try to, establish and become some guy. Cause I always just thought they were just like arrogant idiots that didn't get it. No, it's just, I was the arrogant idiot as a young kid, not getting it. Like, I wasn't understanding that that's not it.
Yeah.
Like it really, yeah. So no, man, I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the hardest time I've ever gone through, but yeah, it was it built me. It built me to who I am.
Yeah. So speaking of who you are today, if I put you in front of a bunch of third graders, career day, one of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Third grader career, I like that. That's a great preframe. Third graders, what do I do for a living? I help. It'd be interesting. I help men remember what it's like to be a third grader.
Okay.
That it's okay to have fun, and that they're enough just who they are. And that I spend my days talking to men who are businessmen and powerful men who have just lost that they can have fun in life, and that they're connected to the wrong thing, right? So that'd probably be I don't know. I don't even know if a third grader would understand that, though. So that
No, I
maybe
think
that's a
they get.
bad way of saying it, but that's in essence really what I do. I just strip
Yeah.
back all the lies and get a man to tell himself the truth
Yeah.
and to truly be honest. I mean, when did we stop splashing in puddles? When did that become a thing?
Yeah.
Right? We became a bunch of boring ass adults who just walk around like these robots and don't actually feel like we should have a personality anymore.
Yeah.
And the guy who does have a personality, he stands out like a sore thumb.
Uh-huh.
But he's also the guy who rises up. I think this is why there's such a differentiation between why there is the top 1%,
Yeah.
why that even exists. It's not because it's not a system that creates that. It's people's own internal drive.
Yeah.
And it's people losing and conforming and not truly being their own brilliance. But it's a scary world to do it in.
Yeah.
So that's really yeah. I mean, I guess that's the best way I could think to
Yeah.
describe it to a third grader.
Yeah. 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 So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Musician.
Okay.
Musician. Yeah. I was always wanted to be a rock star. I always wanted to be a rock star. That's hence the reason I went into the field. I actually did. I had a small record deal when I was younger, in my my late teens, early 20s, and toured around. Just didn't have the success I needed,
Yeah.
that I thought they wanted. I kind of gave up. Let's just put it that way. I'll be honest. I'm gonna lie about it. Kind of gave up. It was just a lot of hard work, and it was not. I wasn't making the progress fast enough in my mind, and so to stay in the industry, I just switched to the other side of the board. It was
So
easy. I saw a clearer path to making money
yeah.
being the sound guy than I did being the guy with the microphone. And so that's kind of where it happened.
So as somebody that put on a lot of shows, what was the very first show that you saw that blew you away, that made you think, wow, I either want to be on that stage or I want to make that stage?
Boys to Men.
Okay.
Boys to Men. I got a chance to see Boys to Men in the Delta Center in Utah. It's not the Delta Center now, but it used to be called the Delta Center. I think now it's the Vivint Sports Arena, something like that. I'm not there anymore. I think they just changed the name. But
Yeah.
yeah, that show it was just, I wanted to be them. I didn't want to produce it. I wanted to be Boys to Men. I remember just them, and everybody remembers them back in the day. And shoot, I would have been young when those guys were first hitting the scene, probably 12 years old,
Yeah.
12, somewhere in that range. And I remember just learning their songs and just, yeah, that was, but I got a chance to go actually watch them. We were up in the we were the nosebleeds beyond the nosebleeds. So all I remember seeing is like a little teeny little stage, but I
Yep.
don't remember much of it. But yeah, I just remember I'm like, oh, that's going to be me someday. That's going to be me someday. And yeah, that's what kind of pursued it. But like, yeah, it never happened because I gave up. I didn't have the drive and ambition that was required,
Yeah.
which I thought I did, and I didn't have the support around me to support it. It was just a lot of different reasons, but yeah,
Yeah.
I never turned in anything.
So let's go back to your childhood. Where were you born and raised? And how did these seeds of motivation, you're obviously a high energy, highly motivated person. How did this
Mm-hmm.
happen?
So we moved 11 times from the time I was born till high school. So my dad wasn't in the military, but he just changed jobs a lot, and we were pretty poor most of our life. Grew up in most places we were at. We're in a trailer. We did have a couple homes along the way, but I remember trailers, and I didn't think we were poor at the time. I didn't know what that meant, right? To even be poor, and I've heard other people say the same thing, and it's true. You don't realize it. Like we'd never gone to a restaurant like a McDonald's. Like we'd never gone to until I was like not quite high school, but it was older in life. Like as a kid, that was not a thing. We never did stuff like that. There was this buffet that we would go to once a year that we thought was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but it was probably like a chuckarama. It was called King's Table, is what I remember it being called, but it was like a chuckarama type thing. And we would literally stay there all day. And I don't know how we didn't get kicked out, but like we would bring games and all sorts of stuff. We would stay there all day and eat all day. Like, so we were that family. And so we had nothing, right? So my parents had no money for school clothes. They had none. So at a young age, my parents, by force, they didn't have a choice, which it's kind of funny. They want to pat themselves on the back, which I think I should give them credit for too. But they want to be like, hey, we taught you all these things, and we didn't give you all these things, and you had to earn them and all this. And I'm like, yeah, you didn't have a choice though. It's one thing to not have a choice. You had to do that. It'd be a different thing if you were like multimillionaires and then you made me do those things. Now you're actually executing discipline. So I didn't get that to an adult, but as a kid, that was it. Like my mom was like, if you want something, it was more my mom. My dad was pretty absent. He was there all the time, but not really there. I have a much better relationship with him now, but he really wasn't there as a young kid growing up. So it was my mom, right? And my mom just was always telling me, she's like, if you want something, you can have it, but you got to earn it. You got to work for it. And I'd be like, to her, even I'd be like, what can I do to earn money? And they don't have money to even hire me to, clean the whatever, like the random jobs you'll give your kids. They couldn't even do that. And so there was no money to be made. And she's like, you gotta go make it. You gotta go figure it out. I'm like, well, how do you do that? And she's like, well, I don't know. Well, I heard about this thing. And like, she would just tell me different ideas that she might have. And one of them was paper route, right? So right out of the gate, 10 years old, I get a paper route. I remember the paper route guy coming. My mom I've talked to my mom about this to validate my details. But my mom had to guarantee to the company or whatever this, it was a Standard Examiner, I think is the name of the company or whatever it was, but to the boss guy that I was able to do it, right? Because I was 10 years old. It was just a little paper out. I'm this little scrawny little 10-year-old. I'm saying, hey, I'm going to get up every morning at 4 a.m. and deliver papers. And so that started me making money. And back then when you did the paper outs, you had to go do the paper out and then you had to go around and collect the bills. Like they didn't mail it in or anything like that. You had this little coupon book that had these little receipts on it, and you would take these receipts and you would go collect your newspaper. So that was like the first start, but that just got me started. And then I realized my parents were having me mow the lawn. So I'm like, well, what if other people would let me mow their lawn? And so from age of 10 to about 12 and a half before we moved out of this particular place, we lived in Yakima, Washington. at the time. And I started going around knocking doors and getting people paying. They pay me $5, no matter what size. I didn't understand that some lawns should be charged more. So every lawn was $5, and I would mow your lawn for $5. And I did that until I got too busy, where I had too many lawns to do. And then I had a friend, the Downings, that lived down the street, and there were two boys there. One was my age and one was an older brother. I hired them to mow lawns for me. And it's so funny because I didn't even realize what I was doing, how actually cool it was what I was doing until much later. But I was hiring them and paying them $4 a lawn, and I was collecting $1. So then and then my job turned into going and knocking doors and getting new accounts. So we were using all the lawns, and we didn't have trailers. Like, we would literally, it was all the stuff in our neighborhood. And there were some homes that were pretty far away. It would take us an hour to push the mower to the job. Right, we're just literally on the sidewalk, just push. But we didn't realize that was even. It was just what we were doing, but we had so much money. I remember my mom. My mom was always just like, "You guys have way more money than me and Dad do," and I was just like, that doesn't even make sense. Yeah. Like, we don't have, and I get it now, right? They obviously made more money than I did, but I didn't have any expenses, right? It was just me. So I'm sitting there as this 10, 12-year-old little kid, and that's where it really clicked for me. It was like, if you want it, you go get it. And if you want it, you can go get it. And it's just, you just got to work for it. If you're willing to put in the price, pay the price, put in the work, put in the time, whatever you want is possible. And so no matter what somebody says, no matter what they tell you can or can't do. And I remember being a kid in elementary school that literally had money. And we lived in a fairly rough area. So like a lot of parents were concerned I was a drug dealer, which is interesting, right? Because I'm this young little kid who has all these coins, right? I'm like, why do I have all these dollars? Why am I stacking up bills? Like, that's like the weird thing for this kid to be doing, showing up to school. I ended up getting in trouble at school, actually, because I started selling stuff at school. I would go to Costco. I don't know if it was Costco. Maybe it was Costco back then, but it was like, the big bulk fruit store. Yeah. And I would buy gum, and I would buy these toothpicks, and then I would dip them in cinnamon. This is before you could go buy them at the store. And I would make my own cinnamon toothpicks. And I would literally sell stuff at school, and I got in trouble for that. They stopped that. Like, you can't walk around and open up your trench coat and sell candy to the kids. But right. Everything was always this grind, though, man. It was this hustle to go after, because I wanted things, and I wasn't willing to sit around and not have them. Right, which is what blows my mind about the society of not just today. And I want to throw any generation under the bus or anything like that, but I just watched a lot of people expecting things to just happen, right? They'll have these dreams and ambitions and drive, even in grown men that are my age and older. They have a dream and they want it, but then they sit and don't do anything, and they don't go for it. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that's not how it works. Yeah. Yes, you have to have a desire and a dream and a want. Right. I wanted things when I was a kid, but then I also knew that in order for me to get them, I actually had to collect the $5 from Mrs. Smith. Yeah. Like, if Mrs. Smith didn't give me $5, I couldn't go get my trading cards. I mean, I probably ended up with several $1,000s worth of football cards. Yeah. Like, I probably had every football card you could possibly buy as a kid's age, because that's what I wanted. And so I knew every lawn I mowed got me 2 packs of score cards. Right. And if I was really, really excited, I'd go after the new era cards. Right? I've got those new era, some of the shiny ones, the hard play. Yeah, those are the nice ones, right? Yeah. Those are the ones you really wanted, right? Those are the rich kid cards. Yeah. Right. And so, but I just got that. And I think that's something that misses today. Like, yeah. I think there's this disconnection from, you know what, you're going to have to do the stuff nobody wants to do. And you don't just have to do it one time. You've got to do it over and over and over. And then maybe a year from now, once you've paid the price, you'll actually be good enough to be where you need to be to actually start making the real dollars or the real change or the real value that you're trying to create. But it doesn't happen in a week. And so many people they give up. They start something and then they don't continue it.
Yeah. Yeah. So who's been your hero in your life?
This is kind of a weird hero, because he's not my hero, but he is at the same time. But it's my brother. Yeah. My big brother. And like, I love him and hate him at the same time. It's the weirdest thing. Like, him and I, we get along really, really well. And he was probably my father figure when I look back and think, because my dad was just not there. But my brother got all my dad's attention. And so I think that it created this weird, so I've had this wanting to be my brother for a lot of my life, which wasn't until my probably shoot late 30s, like no joke, to that point where I finally severed that umbilical cord to my brother. But I look up to him so much. He's forged such an example of perseverance. I mean, he's battled with cancer. He's gone through a lot of very similar trials that I have gone through, and he's just built himself into a man. And then that's what's interesting, because I don't love and respect everything that he does, but if I look at what embodies somebody who's willing to just pay the price and fight no matter what, whether it's right, wrong, and indifferent, whether I agree with it or don't agree with it, the ability to just forge ahead is what I learned watching him, and just what he's done with his life. So that's it has to be. Like I don't really have, like, I'm not sports. I don't really get into sports a whole lot. So I don't have any sport heroes, and like I'm not into the whole superhero scene so much. So, I mean, it's just not, that's, my favorite superhero is Batman,
Yeah.
because he's the only one without any superpowers.
Yeah.
Right. His superpowers being rich.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, I've actually always used that as a lesson of realizing that, what the people that don't have money want to talk shit about people that have money. They want to say that having money is a bad thing. But you can do a whole lot more with the money than you can with none.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a man of God and you want to like change the world, if you've got some Benjamins behind you to stack behind your message, you can actually transform a whole lot more people's lives than you can if you're sitting on a cardboard box on the corner holding up a sign.
Yep.
Right. And so that's why I don't know. So yeah, if I were to choose a superhero as a hero, it would be Batman. But yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be my brother.
Yeah.
There's
So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am one of the most tenacious human beings that I know. I'll never quit. I'll never stop. I will continue to push. But I also struggle with laziness, which is interesting. And what I've articulated is my laziness is in that I will do what's comfortable, meaning I'll do what I know how to do. I become lazy when I'm asked to do something I don't know, and I will do the hard thing that I know how to do as opposed to the easier thing that I don't know how to do. Right. But I would describe myself as literally the hardest worker that I know. I'll outwork anybody at any time, at any moment. I'll push harder. I don't know what failure is because I've never done it. I've had moments where I've got my ass handed to me, and the world has given me a right hook right to my face for sure, over and over. And I've been down, and most people probably thought I was out. I was just recharging, just rebuilding. And I'll never, ever, there is no point in my life where I find there's a destination. Like, I'm not trying to get to a place. That's why you can't beat me. That's why I'm unbeatable, because I'm not even competing. I may be competing with you, but I'm competing with me. And there is no point at which I stop. When my heart stops, that's when you'll know that my game's over. But until then, like, I will never quit. I'll screw it up 100 million times out of the way. And so, like, that's who I am. I just embody it. I feel it. I experience it. Like, if you hang out with me for 5 minutes, you realize, dude, this dude doesn't care. And it's not that I don't care about people. I just don't care about failing, because failing's not even a thing. I will try things that don't make sense because I feel like it might work, or I feel like this is what God's calling me to do, and I'll just do it. And I'm also, and I'd be remiss not to address that I'm a man of God. Like, I have daily communion with God every single morning before we jumped on here. I mean, I'm in Hawaii, so it's much earlier than the time we're recording this. Like, it's much earlier where I'm at than where you're at.
Yeah.
And but I get up at 4:30 every morning, and I commune with God for an hour. And I go out on my lanai overlooking this absolutely breathtaking view of my backyard, which is just, I'm surrounded by just the jungle. And I just sit there and commune with God, and I just talk with him. It's an hour every single morning, and I'm led by him. So the things I do are this tenacity, this drive, this conviction to just not to win, but this drive to become more, to uncover more of who Trevor J. White is. That starts every single morning. It's like the divine reset. You go to bed, and all you did the day before is like done. It's gone. Right. And the morning comes, you're kind of back to a batshit crazy guy. You're like the guy who's got crazy thoughts and stupid things, and you forget about how all the things you were, whatever. So, like, I sit there in the morning and I just commune, and I'm just led. My whole me living in Hawaii was because God told me to be here.
Yeah.
Right, we came on vacation, and He said, "This is where you need to be." And I'm like, "Well, that makes no sense, God." And He's like, "Well, are you going to listen to me or not?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to, so let's do it." And we uprooted everything, sold everything on the mainland. We lived in Utah, sold it all, came here. So, and I'm led by that. That's just one example of the decisions I make, but they're never just Trevor's decisions. Anytime I try to make a choice on my own, or I try to push through or muscle through, and I don't involve God in the conversation, it takes a turn the wrong direction. And I have to find myself into that, into the mud all over me. And I'm like, it didn't work. That didn't work. So I don't know. That was kind of a long answer of who
No,
I
no, no,
am,
that's
but
good.
that's a tough question to answer shortly.
Sir, it certainly is. I always say if you arm wrestle God, you're probably not going to win. Just
No,
in,
no, he'll win every time.
right.
He'll laugh at you. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
he's like laughing at you. He's like, really? It's like, you thought you really?
That's
Okay,
all you
you're
got?
gonna do this? Great. I can only imagine him, God sitting up on his throne, whatever visual you need, and just watching and just being like, come on, guys,
Yeah.
really?
What do you
Is
got?
this okay? Oh, tell me when you're done. And
Yeah.
then in my mind, I just visualize, my kids throwing tantrums and
Yeah.
stressing about things that don't matter at all, and all
Yep.
of that whole world. And you're just like, yeah,
Yeah.
perspective, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Trevor, if anyone wants to hire you, learn more about you, anything about your world, where do they go?
Facebook is probably that's where I'm the most vocal, active inside of Facebook. And then also head over to the websites, thepowerthepivot.com.
Okay. Cool.
So, but yeah, but both of those, are really Facebook, social media, and DM me. Just send me a DM on social media. I respond to all the DMs, and just
Okay.
I love helping people.
Yeah.
Period. So there's a lot of people I have big conversations with that aren't clients of mine.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all through social media, and like they're just not a fit for what I do, because I resonate with a certain type of a person. I'll
Sure.
just put it that way. Like I'm not a rah cheerleader type guy. I'm just not. I'm in your face, and if you're not being truthful with yourself, I'm going to call you on it.
Sure.
And I do it pretty intensely, because my goal is to help you win. So not everybody's a fit for what I do, but those who are a fit, your lives blow up. You just blow them up, because as soon as you can start being honest with yourself, like true honesty, and stop lying about everything. I mean, if once you're in that place, you stop tolerating weakness. You just do.
Yeah.
You won't allow it, right? Clients that work with me, they get shredded, period. Like they just do. Not because I'm a fitness trainer, although that is my background, is like in my background, but it's because in order for you to exercise discipline, your body must become a lethal weapon. Like if you can't exercise discipline in your body, you won't do it in business. You won't do it in your marriage. You won't do it in other areas of your life. And so it takes this, but some guys just don't. That's not their jam. They're just like, I'm okay being average, and I'm okay with that. I have no problem with that. That's not the life for me, and that's not the life that my clients want. Typical person who loves to play this game with me is the one who knows they're called for greatness, but they've yet to figure out how to tap into it.
Yeah.
Like what do they do tactically on a daily basis to win, who become that next version of themselves?
Yeah.
They get stuck, just like I was. I've hired mentors. I've had a coach like for the last decade, right? In various forms. Right now I work with a coach, his name's Wes Watson. Super aggressive guy. Most people have a really hard time with him. I am not a whole lot like him, but I am at the same time. If you go watch him, go look him up on social media, you'll watch him for 32 seconds. You'd be like, okay, that's what Trevor was talking about.
Yeah.
He's a real aggressive guy, prison convict, like just but his intensity is what I wanted around me. I wanted someone with that intensity to hold me accountable, so that I didn't lie to myself.
Sure.
So yeah. So, but yeah, anyhow, that's where I go. Just hit me up on social media. I love helping people and stuff.
Absolutely. Love the energy, man. Thank you so much for your time today. Send my best to Hawaii.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you,
Have
sir.
a great day.
Take care. You too, man.
Bye.